Am I the a-hole for kicking out my friend after I caught her planning a secret home remodel? I'm gonna go yes. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Tash and I'm an interior designer that loves making design accessible for anyone. And today we are doing something a little bit different. We are having a look at Am I the a-hole posts on Reddit surrounding home renovations and discussing some of the ethics around it and what my opinion is as a designer around some of these stories. So let's get right on into it. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my friend after I caught her planning a secret home remodel? I'm gonna go yes. What? So I inherited a house from my dad a few years ago. It's a 3-bedroom place in a nice neighborhood where rent usually goes for about $2,500 a month. That is a nice home, very nice. Since I don't pay rent but have to cover upkeep and insurance, I figured having a roommate would be a good idea. Financially savvy, I like it. One of my close friends who works from home seemed like a good fit. I did the math and decided $800 a month would cover everything comfortably. When I offered her the room, she asked if she could pay $500 a month for the first few months until she got settled into her new job. I agreed because $500 still covered the bills and I wasn't looking to profit off her. That is very nice. A few months in, she started acting really weird. She'd constantly send me out of the house, to the store, to pick up her boyfriend, to get coffee for us, but she never wanted to come with me. I thought it was odd, but didn't think much of it at first. Okay. Then things got really suspicious. She was always video chatting when I wasn't around, and I caught a glimpse that looked like she was talking to construction guys. One day, I snooped and found texts between her and several renovation companies asking for quotes to remodel my house. She was saving money on rent to secretly plan a home remodel on my house, which I did not approve. Okay, not cool of you to go through someone's phone, but also, what in the world? Oh, I have so many questions. She even tried gifting me a week's stay in Vegas a few weeks ago, probably hoping I'd leave so she could start the remodel. I told her I don't like to leave for that long, which now I'm super glad I did. When I confronted her, she swore she wasn't actually going to go through with it, but I don't believe her. Yeah, same. The texts and video chats were pretty convincing, and I saw my address on every quote. I kicked her out because I couldn't trust her anymore. Also haven't spoken since she left. My house has a lot of sentimental value to me, and I love its antique charm. I'm so glad I trusted my gut and stayed, so am I the a-hole for kicking her out? No. First of all, no, you're not. Second, why in the world would she, as a renter, you have no financial stake in the home. Not really. And so why would you want to spend your hard-earned cash to make something better? I understand it from just like an emotional point of view, like especially if you're a long-term renter and you want the space to feel like home. I get wanting to make some like updates and changes to make it feel a little bit more like you and just more intentionally yours rather than just a necessary evil. I do get that, but to have construction contractors means that this woman was planning something pretty major. It wasn't like she was just like planning to choose a new paint color and be like, surprise. She was like expecting to do potentially large remodels. Now, in saying that, like, because it has antique charm, as she says, potentially, like, let's say the shower was just in disarray and you really needed a new shower head. That's fine. You should have that communication with each other and be like, hey, look, I know that you like the antique charm of this house, but I cannot do this bathroom. I really just need a new shower head potentially, just so then it feels at least a little nicer for me. And I think that's a very reasonable request, but it's also a request and you're communicating. This girl did none of that, and she was planning to send her off, potentially update her home, and then, I don't know, claim that she had some stake in the house because she put in money towards it. That's my assumption, because why else would you want to put money into a friend's house? It just doesn't make any sense. Let's see what the comments say. Why would she do that? Claim part ownership of the house because she invested in it? Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. Okay. She's doing this because she wants to claim that she's made a substantial investment and now she's a part owner. Kick her out. She made or attempted to make alterations to your home without your consent. Also, please tell me you had to sign a lease, even if it was a very basic template from online. Either way, go to a landlord or tenant lawyer and get this sorted out right away. You have no time to waste here. Yeah, so this was what I was actually going to discuss. When she was mentioning that she was giving the rent cheaper and, she was just trying to be nice, I get that. I really do. I fell into the exact same trap. And unfortunately, the really hard thing to do is ask friends and family for money, and especially to follow the rules, because, you feel like you have this connection with them and that they're not going to like F you over, that you're like, no, I don't need a contract. It's fine. Like, I've known them 10 years. They're my mum. They're my dad. It doesn't matter. You should always have a contract in place because you just never know. You really just never know. I hope there was a lease involved, and so then, if something were to go into court, then she at least had some legal rights around it. And especially with this whole potential idea of, trying to claim that you made a substantial investment as well, having at least saying that, you have a lease agreement saying that you're a renter, then, maybe it would work for the better, maybe it won't work for the worst. I don't know. I'm not a financial person or, law person, but you can tell that I'm a designer, Jesus. But even still, like, you just never know what's going to happen. And yeah, I'm glad that nothing was done, because especially a home that you've inherited, it's got sentimental value. I understand coming in as a renter or a buyer, you'll probably look at something and be like, huh, those yellow carpets are something special. But as a person that's inherited it, you'd be like, man, that has such a wonderful, deep meaning to me and the life that was here and that was lived here. So yeah, I'm glad that nothing was done to this beautiful antique house and that she got rid of her before anything happened, because my gosh, that is concerning. Let's move to the next one though. Am I the a-hole for not compromising on renovation decisions with my girlfriend? Well, assuming that you guys purchased the house together, then you're probably being a little bit of an a-hole. But if it's your house, then no, financially speaking at least. I live with my girlfriend, but the house is financially mine. Okay, well, now we know. I paid for the deposit, paid for the mortgage, etc. I am currently in the process of renovating my house, for which I'm paying for. My girlfriend and I disagree on one of the big renovation decisions, and she suggested we compromise and meet in the middle. However, I said I will not be doing so, and will be sticking with my choice, which upset her. I understand that she lives in this house too, and might feel like I am not making this feel like her home. But ultimately, I paid for the house entirely, so I believe it should be my say. I otherwise try to make her feel like it's her home too. For example, she has brought in her own decorations and furniture and have never held it over her head that I own the place. But with such a big decision like renovation, I believe that should be entirely up to me. Am I the a-hole for not compromising? Okay, so there is an edit, but before we get into that, financially speaking and investment speaking, no, you're not, because you do have full legal rights into the property, and whatever you do to the property can potentially make the property go up or down in value. Now, if we're talking about a big renovation, this is potentially moving of walls, potentially updating a kitchen, maybe completely transforming the entire internal of the house. Those are major decisions that can make or break whether or not your house has value or not. Yeah, look, honestly, even though you do want to make her feel at home, and it's great that you're allowing for the furniture and all that sort of thing, when it comes to big renovation decisions like this that can make or break you financially, I do understand being a little bit more headstrong on this. So let's see what their edit has to say. Edit adding info to answer some of the questions in the comments. I want to break down the divide between the kitchen and the living room to create an open plan living room. She says we should keep the divide and suggested a compromise that we keep the kitchen but make it smaller and add the extra space to the living room. Okay, my foot's falling asleep. 1 second. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's so tingly. Okay. A little better. Okay. All right, so we're talking about creating an open plan living space, which honestly, it's really common these days. It's a great way to modernize a space. Obviously, we don't have any pictures here, so we can't look at it and decide whether or not it is the best idea for the space. However, when it comes down to it, usually open concept homes do sell better just because they do feel more modern, and it's what buyers are wanting these days. We are starting to see a trend back to having designated spaces, but it's a much more micro trend. Not as many people are wanting this. And let's be completely honest here. How many people want a smaller kitchen? Honestly, kitchens have gotten ridiculously large in the last, decade or so. However, in saying that, small kitchens are very hard to work with because you're using it every single day. It needs to be functionable. And if it's not functionable and it's tiny, you're just going to hate cooking. You're going to hate living there. You're just going to hate anything around food. So the kitchen is actually a huge focal point as to, does it work? Is it large enough? And can I actually use this? And so we don't know whether or not they were planning to update the kitchen. I'm going to assume that there would have been at least some level of update to the kitchen based on what we're reading here. But even in saying that, also another thing to just quickly add, men and women have very different design preferences, and so we will see value in different areas. But kitchen, unfortunately, is one of those areas where you do really want to have the extra space and just the functionality aspect around it. But if you are trying to mix design styles, that's a little bit of a different sort of story. And if you are struggling with that, I'd highly suggest having a look at this video here that I did recently. It's all about mixing opposing design styles. And if you have a completely opposite style to your partner, that's okay. You can still mix them together, but it just has a little bit of finessing to do. So check that one out after this. All right, let's have a look at what the comments say. I have a feeling everyone will say not the a-hole, but we'll see. No one ever wants a smaller kitchen. Not the a-hole. Thank you. Okay, I'm not the only one. Great. Info, do you plan to sell this home and buy a home jointly after marriage? Or do you intend to stay in the home if you got married? That is a good question to ask, because if you are planning to get engaged and get married and stay there long term, then yeah, maybe you would think that she has a little bit more say, not in the legal sense, however, just in the emotional sense, because you guys are planning to build a life there long term and you want to make it yours. So I do agree with that comment in that sense, but if it's not really quite there yet, then unfortunately she has to accept that. Not the a-hole. You might give in on some things like paint color, a couple of shades from what you want, but big structural changes are your choice, particularly because you are probably paying for the renovation and it doesn't sound like she is paying any rent. Open plan kitchen and dining room seems to be a trend. Are you planning to put a dining table into what is now the living room? The trend's, honestly, let's be honest, been around for about 20 years, and open concept has been around for a while now. There is a little trend back to having segmented spaces, but it's certainly more of a micro trend and much smaller. But in saying that, overall the market currently does prefer open concept homes because it does feel more modern and more open living style. Never make a kitchen smaller. That can impact the value of your house. Good point as well. Yeah, it really can make a huge difference. Not the a-hole, you asked for her input, it wasn't what you envisioned, and since it's your home, not hers, you get the final vote. I can't believe all the people on here voting you're the a-hole, so even though it's his home, he's paying for it, and he's paying for all the renovations, the OP is expected to just do what the girlfriend wants because she's his girlfriend. Yeah, I mean, look, if maybe he didn't allow her to choose some of the furniture and all that sort of stuff, maybe it would be like, okay, well, you gotta give some leeway, but he did specifically say, hey, she's got all of her furniture here, she's made some design choices. And the thing is that soft furnishings can make a huge difference in a home. It's not necessarily always just about structural stuff. And, structural is amazing in the sense that you can affect the flow of your home and how you use your home. But the same can be done with soft furnishings as well, where you place your sofa, where your bed is, how you place everything else in the space will just kind of dictate how you use the space. So even if she doesn't win this argument, which honestly it doesn't seem like she will, she'll still be able to utilize the space pretty well. And even if you do want to have a level of privacy, let's say from the kitchen to the living area or dining room, there are ways to do that aren't structural. So you can use a curtain, you can use partitions and that sort of thing. You can make it more of a design element rather than just it's just open concept. So there are plenty of ways to kind of work around it and, provide some level of seclusion into one space. So it's really not the end of the world if there's not a wall there, honestly. OP, please take a moment to reassess before you push forward. If you love this woman, try to have another conversation about it and see if you two can make some common ground. I saw some great advice about if you're planning on living there forever after marriage, and absolutely take that into the conversation. If this isn't your forever home and you need to outline that you're working to get to the most market value out of the end of the story, you win. If this is your forever home, or at least a next 10 years home, then in my opinion, you should have another go at the conversation. Maybe have some mock-ups drawn from different solutions so you can both see a concept of different spaces. And FWIW, wow, I don't know half of internet language, but okay. I agree that a smaller kitchen is never the answer, but it does depend on how much kitchen you've got to start with. Good luck. That does make a really great point, and I do think it is important to have those discussions together, and it does depend where you are at in your relationships, but in the end, it does affect you financially, so I do understand you wanting to have a bit more weight to your say. So if you are kind of going back and forth, I do think this person made a really great point. Get a designer in. I can't believe I forgot myself. But you can get a designer in to do mock-ups of both spaces, so then you can get a better idea as to what the pros and cons are for both. And if it is a long-term choice and investment, maybe you should look at the other side just briefly and go, okay, I've seen it now. I still dislike the cons in this situation. Let's move forward with the pros. But then at least she can also see where you're envisioning as well. And I do think that's just as important. And if you want to create this space together and really make it a group project, I think it's a really great idea if you do some mood boards and concept boards together. If you'd like to learn how to do that, make sure you check out this video afterwards. Let's move on to the next one. Oh my gosh, my other foot's falling asleep now. Jeepers. Oh, okay. How's that? That's better. Okay. Am I the a-hole for renovating my daughter's old childhood room without calling her? I have thoughts. We're going to say yes as of right now. I, 38 male, and the other members of my family have chosen to have the holidays, both Christmas and Thanksgiving, over at my house. My daughter has already moved out and said she will stay with friends this year. In order to make the most out of the free space, I decided 3 weeks ago to undergo renovations in my daughter's room and our home office. These renovations meant the destruction of her and the office's connected right internal wall and the mailing of all her things to her P.O. box. P.O.? Ooh, okay. Once finished, I called in my family and had them move into the now renovated bedroom office for the 3 to 4 week period between Thanksgiving and Christmas to save money. Now, the reason I mention this is because of yesterday's incident. My daughter, having just started to receive her stuff, called me confused as to what I had done. I told her about the renovations, why I'd sent her things over, and to expect more of them over the week. Oh boy. There was a brief silence. She usually does this when she is uncomfortable, and she explained how she couldn't take most of the stuff into her dorm on such short notice, and that she wished that I had told her about the plan before renovating or moving anyone in. I told her that since she moved out of the room, it was mine and to do what I wanted with, and that I couldn't hold any of her stuff and I had already shipped it. I've come to regret being as irritated as I was and feel as if I could have involved her more, but I was already on a tight deadline with the renovation and needed to move out as much stuff as possible fast. Am I the a-hole? Okay, I'm going to say this real simply. We have this fantastic new invention. You probably haven't heard of it yet. It's called a mobile phone. It's really great. You dial the number of your daughter and you call her, and guess what? It's instant. She picks up the phone and you can tell her straight away. That's how fast you can do that. Okay, so the biggest issue with this is communication, of course. Now, we can just look at it from the legal side and be like, yep, it's his house. He can do what he wants with it. However, this is much more of a emotional, ethical side of things as to how his daughter would feel about it and also how to communicate that to her. Now, he does say that she moved out. How moved out is she? Because if she's only at uni or at, what do you guys call it, college, then is that really moved out? Because she has so much stuff there, it's still her room, it's still a time capsule of her childhood room. There's a lot of emotional charge around that, and to not even communicate, hey, by the way, I'm making some changes to your room to let Granny Stacy stay. Random name, but okay. Like, you know, it's just not the polite thing to do to start with. Obviously, you can go ahead and renovate however you like. You know, I understand the desire to renovate, especially to make space or make use of a space that feels very dead. I get that. I actually have a story about that, and you can tell me if I'm the a-hole in my own situation. But at the same point in time, communication needs to be had, and it wasn't. And that's where he is the a-hole in this situation, in my opinion. But there's an update, so let's see what it says. Update. So, after my family and I finished eating, I called my daughter to see where she currently stands. Oh my God, what do you know? He does know what a mobile phone is. Love that. She's ignored me for a bit, but she just texted me asking if I'd finished sending her things, to which I answered yes, and that she intends to spend Christmas at her same friend's house. Yeah, she's not happy. Fair enough. You're the a-hole for shipping all her belongings to a P.O. box without telling her. Also, she didn't move out. She went to college where you stay, not live. Okay, that makes a difference. Yeah, I've seen college dorm rooms. They're tiny. Don't really do that very much in Australia, but even still. She does not have anything like a permanent residence. As a college student, she probably has to leave her dorm for the summer and likely won't stay in the same room next year. She has absolutely nowhere to store all those things, plus she's barely out of the house. Yes, you're the a-hole for renovating without at least talking to her first. You're the a-hole for throwing all her stuff in boxes and sending it to a P.O. box at college. She is going to either have to throw out all of her childhood possessions or rent a storage locker as a freshman in college. Do you know when it is okay to throw someone's possessions in a box and mail it to them? In a breakup. That's it. So congrats for treating your kid as someone you want out of your life. I'm pretty sure you'll get your wish. Well, all right, so pretty much everyone had the same opinion about this. I would like to pose a question to you. So in this one, I feel like it's pretty cut and dry, but let me ask you this. I did 2 room makeovers, 2 years ago now, I think, in my mum's house. And one of them was a living room, which was classified as mine. And then the other one was a spare bedroom. And at the time, you know, the spare bedroom was a junk room. There was literally nothing going on in there. It was just full of shit. And the living room of mine, I just felt like it needed a paint color change to really transform it, make it feel really nice. And so while her and my sister were away on holidays in Europe for a few weeks, I painted both rooms and I completely transformed them. And, you know, as an interior designer, I was pretty confident on, my skills. And I went into it going, okay, I want to try and make this beneficial for both of us. And if she hates it, I'll change it back. I don't mind. Like, of course, I'm putting financial money into this. I know that's not ideal, but it was family house. And I really just wanted to make it useful. So with that spare bedroom, I transformed it into a bedroom, but also made it into a home office as well, so then they could print things. And I made it into a space that was more her preferred style and to her liking. So you can actually see both of these rooms on my channel if you really want. And then my room, I knew she was probably going to say no about the color because I chose red. And that is a very strong color. I was fully willing to potentially paint it again, but I knew that this color would look really nice if I just got it onto the walls. And once I came home, don't get me wrong, they were shocked. They were very shocked. Probably a weird thing to experience after a, 18-hour flight? Probably more, actually. But they did genuinely like it, and so I kept things as they were. So, but in this situation, again, I didn't communicate with them. However, I knew what they both wanted in the home, so I made sure that I incorporated that. And the thing is here, he hasn't incorporated her whatsoever. So she has no room to come back home to. And especially because it's a childhood bedroom, it's emotionally charged. Whereas in my scenario, okay, yes. Should I communicate it? Yes, I probably should have communicated it and, ruined the surprise a little bit for the sake of communicating clearly. However, I really wanted it to be a present and a surprise to them, and I wanted it to be beneficial for everyone. In his scenario, he's only making it beneficial for himself. And that makes a huge impact as to how the daughter will feel. But yeah, you guys let me know in the comments below whether or not I'm the a-hole in that situation. And feel free to go ahead and check out those videos about those rooms if you're wanting to have a quick squeeze and see what they look like. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you really would like some help in making your home look a little bit more elevated, make sure you check out this video here, and I'll see you guys in the next design adventure.